Continuing my WrestleMania review series, and I have officially made it to the 30s. Wow. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another edition of WrestleMania review series, and this time we got WrestleMania 30. Yes, we finally made it to the 30s. After this, we're gonna have like 10 more reviews, even though it's technically like 15 because WrestleMania becomes 2 nights much later. So I got some homework to do, and thankfully I'm on spring break, so I don't have to worry about school or anything like that. Anyways, this show has gotten mixed reviews as the times go. I remember at the time people said this was one of the greatest, if not the greatest WrestleMania of all time. But then you fast forward to years later and people are starting to see like, was it really a good show? The wrestling wasn't great. There was a lot of slowness. Some stuff didn't live up to the hype. All this stuff. But for me, I'm just gonna say right now, I had fun with this show. I can see its problems now as an adult and seeing like, yeah, I wish this happened, I wish that happened. But for the most part, this show was pretty good. Um, and I will say that it's in the A range. I won't say whether it's an A plus, A minus, or just an A. We will wait till the end to uh, share that. But we kick off the show, New Orleans at the Superdome, brothers, not the Silver Dome, Hulk Hogan. Um, No America the Beautiful. We just kick off with a good video package showcasing New Orleans and WrestleMania, and only for Hulk Hogan to come out then talks about being back at the Silverdome, even though it was the Superdome, already messing up his lines. He talks about how this night will be full of incredible, unexpected moments, and then out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. They trade words, they tease a match, only for them to give each other respect, and then for the first time in over a year since WrestleMania 29, we get The Rock come out, who we all thought was like gone. He went Hollywood. He was never coming back, and he had this one moment, and it was just one of the most breathtaking images of all time. Seeing The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 30, just talking. And I love The Rock's promo. He had my favorite part to say. Like, he was probably the funniest and the best because he was talking about, how babies are made 9 months after WrestleMania because of that electricity. They feel it. It was really funny. Um, we got Batista, King Kong, Bundy, Sheamus. If they fought the three of us, we stick their boots straight up their anus. But my favorite part of The Rock was when he talks about we have someone fighting in the name of hustle, loyalty, and respect. But that wouldn't have happened if someone 29 years ago didn't say their prayers and eat their vitamins, brother. We have a man who's gonna take on the authority, and that wouldn't have happened if one tough SOB didn't fight Vince McMahon. Oh my god. Just the fact that these three men have made an impact in all of the wrestling at this WrestleMania up to this point, it basically tells you how important the three men were. And when the three of them say their closing lines, if you smell, bottom line, run wild on you, brother. Them having that moment, sharing a beer, that was just a beautiful image and possibly one of the best moments to ever open a WrestleMania. You cannot replicate it. I thought they were gonna do it at WrestleMania 40. I really did, but I'm glad that they didn't go that route. They left it alone, and I really hope they never replicate this moment. You just can't, especially now because Hulk Hogan is not a very popular person to talk to. Rock is probably way more busier than ever, and Stone Cold, well, he's Stone Cold. He can do whatever he wants. Our first match of the show basically plays a part in the main event because the winner would enter the main event later on in the show, and that is Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. This match had no right to be this good. This is a much older Triple H, and yet Daniel Bryan and him had one of the greatest matches of all time. One of the greatest openings of all time, possibly the. Um, but for me, the biggest hype was that opening package of Daniel Bryan overcoming the odds, showcasing his entire career in WWE so far, and how they never saw him more than a B plus player. And Daniel Bryan refuses to just be a B plus player. They basically do callbacks to it. And man, fans were fighting strong because people were booing the Royal Rumble result. We were livid. And then to top it off, CM Punk had just left, so they had to pivot crazy. And because of that, Daniel Bryan ended up having this amazing story leading into WrestleMania, making it YesOmania, him occupying Raw, him demanding a match against Triple H, and if he wins, he gets to be in the main event. And then Triple H said, you know what, it will be a triple threat match, but it's going to be me in the main event, not you. And it was just awesome just seeing Triple H as this authority figure when the authority was actually villainizing. And I just thought this match did really good. I love the entrance of, Triple H's Kingdom, and then having Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Alexa Bliss, three women who will eventually walk into WrestleMania as women's world champions. A phenomenal moment. He having this epic entrance. Danny Bryan has a simple entrance because that's part of the character that he was. I love the reversals. I love the submission holds. Triple H actually doing technical moves, which is rare to see Triple H, especially at this age. And this was just, man, I just love this match. This is hands down my match of the night. Possibly one of, if not the greatest opening match of all time. It's still tough because WrestleMania 10 was just so good with Bret and Owen, but this one's just this close of a second. I don't even care that this stole the show because it still got you invested. Like, sometimes I hate when the first match is the best match and then the rest of the show is awful. But this still had a lot of meat to it, and it still plays off in the main event. So even though this was the match of the night, you still had a lot of stuff to get excited for on this show. So with that, I love the ending. I love Danny Bryan almost making Triple H tap out, the submission reversals, all of that. And then Daniel Bryan does the knee and gets his win, and he's going to be in the main event. But before that, Stephanie slaps him. Triple H beats him up a little bit more, hits him with a chair, making you think, well, is he going to be able to beat Batista and Randy Orton later on in the show? We'll see. Then we had a filler match. It was the Shield versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws. I used to hate this match. I still kind of do. It was just a squash match of the Shield beating up the Attitude Era. But it kind of was like a last minute change because it was very clear that they were supposed to do the Shield triple threat for the US belt, but the Shield was just too over as a babyface that they could have ran this for a couple more months. So much so that all three men have said, like, no, let's not break up the Shield just yet. Look at how over we are. We are selling t-shirts like crazy. Let's keep it going for another couple months, then we'll do the breakup. And then this was just kind of like a tag on because now that the Shield are not going to have their triple threat match, we kind of had to pivot, and we had this like last minute thrown together stuff. I wish we got in the Shield versus the Wyatt family, like in a street fight or something. But then, if you think about it, what was John Cena gonna do? There was nobody credible enough for John Cena to fight at WrestleMania, unless he started the U.S. Open Challenge a little bit early, which hindsight that probably could have worked. Or I don't know, the IC belt, making John Cena a Grand Slam champion. They could have done other stuff, but then again, this was around the time where they were struggling to build up new guys, and then they basically were with what they had. So the Shield fighting Kane and the New Age Outlaws made sense. I love the double triple power bomb. They just threw in their moves and they got a quick paycheck, but fine for what it was. But at the time, I was like, man, this is kind of disappointing. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and I remember at the time, people were disappointed because this was basically their way of being the substitute for Money in a Bank, and it was very unfortunate. But for the first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, this was good. Unfortunately, the rest are not as great. This one was pretty good, and it was very exciting because they had a proper way of building up everybody. Big Show being the giant favorite, Sheamus being a former world champion, Dolph Ziggler wanting a redemption, Damien Sandow being a joke, Alberto Del Rio after being looked like a joke by Batista, 3MB, can they coexist? Fandango had just debuted the previous year. Now he is trying to redeem himself because he never lived up to the hype. So there was a story for everybody involved in this. And then to top it off, it was built around all individuals. Big E being the IC champion, of course. All these other things, the Rhodes wanting to go on their own. I can keep going, but I'm getting distracted. The big thing was that like it was very clear that the Big Show was the odds-on favorite, so it was like, okay, let's just give it to the Big Show. But then we saw Cesaro there, who previously was on the pre-show, which I'm not gonna talk about. All I could say is go watch Usos right back, so Los Matadores and the Real Americans. That was a good match that should have been on the card if certain matches were shorter. But yeah, go watch that match. It's really good. And then it has Cesaro turning on Jack Swagger, who, funny enough, Jack Swagger was in the world title picture. Now he's on the pre-show. Sad, just sad. But anyways, Cesaro turns on Jack Swagger, and then he does his own thing, and it was like, okay, cool. Cesaro's gonna be his own single star, but we didn't expect that he was gonna come in on the Andre Battle Royal and be in the final too. And after we just saw Cesaro turn on Jack Swagger, we wanted him to have this moment, but it was like, oh, great, they're going to give it to the Big Show because he's the favorite. And then we had a callback to WrestleMania 3. Cesaro picks up the Big Show, lifts him, and throws him over the top rope. Big moment for Cesaro. And man, I only wish that they actually went and they pulled the trigger. Cesaro could have been a mega star right about now. Maybe not the guy, but he could have done great stuff with the Intercontinental Championship. Like, the fact that he just goes back to tag teams after this is kind of sad. But, man, at the time, Cesaro was like it. I think the big mistake that they ever did with Cesaro was take away Antonio. It should have been Antonio Cesaro forever. Because I feel like one name people rarely make it unless you're Edge or The Rock. But yeah, Cesaro just by itself, it just didn't work. But Antonio Cesaro would have been cool. So, anyways, this was a good moment. I like that Big Show and Cesaro shake hands at the end. They had like 5 guys pick up the Andre trophy to give to Cesaro, and then he just picks it up like nothing. Awesome moment and a really good match. There was a cool Kofi spot where he goes flying off from the turnbuckle and then he lands on the steel steps. That was really cool. There was the 30 punch to Fandango on from Sheamus. Del Rio and Sheamus rekindle their feud only to get eliminated. Pretty good for a battle royal. WWE Hall of Fame class of 2014, and I'm gonna say it right now, this is my favorite class ever. I think it had a lot of great legends that are well deserved and a lot of people who I grew up idolizing. For example, Razor Ramon. A lot of the work that I do as a character when I do MCs, hosting Coronation Studios, was inspired with the charisma of Razor Ramon. Him, Jericho were like my huge inspirations of what my character and persona was. Carlos Colon, a good Puerto Rican. I know he's not very popular nowadays, probably the weakest person in the Hall of Fame, but it was very cool to see the father of Carlito up there. Paul Bearer, who the previous year had passed, so it was very fitting that they were going to give him this moment with the greatest manager of all time, or one of the greatest. Lita, who was well deserved, my favorite female wrestler of all time. Jake the Snake Roberts, his speech made me cry. I love that speech, talking about like how he was just close to death, but man, the fact that he rejuvenated and did better for himself it was just a miracle to see, and I was so happy that we got to see Jake give his speech. Mr. T, even though his mama's speech wasn't popular with people, it became a meme. And to top it off, doesn't take away the fact that Mr. T really deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. But the Ultimate Warrior, who closed off the Hall of Fame class, man, I know he's getting a lot of hate. Like his past is coming back to haunt him, but they did a good job of having him at least have his moment. This inspired the Warrior Award. This was very good for even though you take away all the horrible stuff that Warrior did, but the fact that he was willing to apologize to these people. I saw the Dark Side of the Ring documentary, him apologizing to Jake. So I was very happy that at least Warrior got to like make amends, even though he unfortunately passed like 3 days later, I believe. It was a very crazy moment when I was like, "What? The Warriors did? He just was in the Hall of Fame." But anyways, I was very happy with this class. This is my favorite class of all time, so I can't really get mad at this. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. That legacy promo was just really good. They had a good hype promos for a lot of these matches. But the big one for me was this match. I was actually thinking this was going to be the match of the night because I didn't think Triple H had it in him to carry Daniel Bryan to a good match, or vice versa. Daniel Bryan carrying Triple H to a great match. But again, I was wrong. And then I wasn't sure because Batista was not moving as good as he once was. We've seen Randy and Bryan 100 times. So this was like the first fresh match that we were getting. And the story was good of how Bray Wyatt wants John Cena to embrace the hate. They were going to do the embrace the hate story basically yet again. I thought this time they were going to get it correctly and have Bray Wyatt win. Unfortunately, he lost, and I think that's why a lot of people look at WrestleMania 30 now as an overrated or not a good WrestleMania. But I remember the promo for this was really good. I do wish that John Cena had lost, or if he was going to win, he would have won by DQ or something like that. Like the Wyatts just couldn't help it, and they take on John Cena. So even though John Cena wins, the Wyatts walk away happy, like something, because just John Cena winning cleanly after like Bray Wyatt was playing mind tricks, scaring John Cena when he does the pose, John Cena getting scared. John Cena basically fighting in a 3-on-1 match. I don't know. I just didn't like that this match had John Cena win by pinfall. Like, I wish that Bray Wyatt either had his victory clean or lost by DQ. Like something where it's like the feud is obviously going to continue. Granted, they redeemed themselves at WrestleMania 36, but we'll get to that when we'll get to it. But man, I think the match itself was good. It was very entertaining. The story was awesome. Too bad the wrong winner was crowned. Now we get to the biggest hot take of all time, which was my hot take because it's the Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. Now, a lot of people believe that Brock Lesnar was the wrong guy because he was already a made man. He was already established. But you got to think about it. This is a brand new Brock Lesnar. This is not the same Brock Lesnar from 2002 to 2004. This was the one that just came from UFC, had lost to John Cena and Triple H. So the only thing to revitalize Brock Lesnar was to beat the streak. And the fact that it was Paul Heyman's call, like, the story was kind of weird, I will say. They barely even did anything. They just showed video packages for a good portion of the time. Brock and Undertaker were not on the arena at the exact same time. I don't know what they were thinking there. But the whole reason why Paul Heyman wanted this match is so he can get payback because CM Punk had left. So he believes that CM Punk wasn't the same since he lost to The Undertaker. So this was basically Paul Heyman versus Undertaker, if you think about it, with Brock Lesnar as a side piece. But Brock Lesnar beating the streak, I'm going to be honest, I think they went the right call. I thought that Brock Lesnar was the right guy to win. I always believed that the streak should have ended if it was going to continue after 20 victories. Because it was like, what do you do with The Undertaker? Because up to this point, The Undertaker was older. He only came for WrestleMania, he never came for anything else. So the only thing to do is break the streak and do a revival story after that. But with that said, I will say that this match is not good. Undertaker gets concussed. This was a precursor to Suplex City. This was very slow. There was a part where Undertaker doesn't even remember this match. And then when the match ends, he passes out. But that moment of the streak ending was what made it for everybody. Um, if it wasn't for that moment, this would have been one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time. Yeah, so really, um, after three F5s, Brock Lesnar hits Undertaker with the third F5. One, two, three. And everybody was like, what the hell just happened? You have that infamous face of the Shock Taker fan. Um, just like the guy with the glasses. Paul Heyman screaming. I remember when Paul Heyman was in the ring and he was like this. I was like, wait, did the streak really end? And I was just like, oh my god, the streak really end. And that is what I wanted to happen. Now, I will say this. This moment would have been way more impactful had Brock Lesnar been undefeated up to this point, if I'm making sense. Like, he should have beaten um, John Cena. He should have beaten Triple H. And then he should have been undefeated. Every match that you give to Brock Lesnar up to this point should have been Brock Lesnar going over. So when he fights The Undertaker and he beats him, it's like, whoa, who is going to beat this dude? So that was the only thing that I wish that they did, because the only reason why they would give Brock Lesnar this victory is because you weren't going to have Brock Lesnar lose three major matches like the John Cena one, the Triple H one, and now the Undertaker one. So like it made sense why Undertaker lost here. But I do think that this was the right call. And it made Brock Lesnar a beast. Like they got him correctly. Like I didn't like I mean, Brock Lesnar was a great technical wrestler. We saw it in 2002 to 2004, but this kind of changed the character. This made him a beast, an immortal, just like this monster. Like, who is going to beat Brock Lesnar? So, this really did help his career. You would argue that other people deserve it. If it were up to me, yes, it would have been Bray Wyatt. But they did a good job of getting you excited and making Brock Lesnar be the one to break it. Yes, he's not a very popular figure now, but I can't really get mad at this. So, anyways, it is unfortunate that the match was not as good. We do have that standing moment of Undertaker walking away, this music playing, and then unfortunately he had passed out and then leaves to the hospital with Vince. That was a good moment to see Vince being willing and show that he had a heart to leave the show and go to the hospital with the Undertaker, which basically told you that Stephanie and Triple H were in charge up to this point. Let's talk about the worst match of this WrestleMania. That is AJ Lee defending her Divas Championship in the Vicky Guerrero Invitational match for the Divas Championship. Basically, it was AJ Lee defending the belt against everybody. Oksana, Alicia Fox, Brie Bella, Cameron, Emma, Eva Marie, Layla, Naomi, Natalia, Nikki Bella, Rosamund, Summer Rae, Tamina Snuka, and that's it. I thought this was gonna be the night where Paige debuts in this match, but I think they realized they don't want to do WrestleMania debuts that big, especially after how Fandango flopped. So I made sense why they didn't do that. It had some okay moments, but it wasn't that good of a match. It was just a bunch of women just being thrown everywhere. There was a wardrobe malfunction with one of the Funkadactyls. I forgot which one. I know they cut it out, but I remember watching it live. I'm like, hey, that girl just popped her bra. And keep in mind, I was 15 when this came out. Anyways, Let's not go there. But there was a cool moment where the Bellas have a stare off, and this was a precursor to their feud that happens later this year, which was horrible. But AJ Lee retains. It was whatever. It was just basically a way to wrap up the story between her and Vicky Guerrero. And then, of course, the following night, she loses it to Paige, which was the moment for everybody. And of course, that led to Fighting with My Family, that movie. Um, anyways, let's just move on to the main event. And I do feel bad for the Divas because they could have done something special, but the crowd just saw the streak end, so nobody really cared. This is just like something to hold them away until the main event. One moment I want to talk about before we talk about the main event was that cool moment of Mean Gene interviewing Hulk Hogan. Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff are talking to him, saying that they're angry that they lost and that they want to get over it. Mr. T evens up the odds with Hulk Hogan. Basically, the four men who main evented the first ever WrestleMania. I'm glad that all of them were alive to do this moment. And then all four of them bury the hatchet. Roddy Piper is trying so hard to shake Mr. T's hand because they hated each other for so long. And, kayfabe wise. And then they shake hands. Roddy cries, and that was a great moment. Very underrated moment that no one talks about, but it was a really cool moment. Then we get the main event itself. Randy Orton, Batista, and Daniel Bryan. From the start, it was supposed to be Batista, but we all know how this all happened. Batista wins the Royal Rumble, gets booed. They had no choice but to turn Batista heel, even though they tried to make him the tweener of the story. Instead, they just made Randy and Batista the heels. Even though they hated each other, they both wanted Daniel Bryan to lose, but then their egos got in the way. They started collabing, and because of it, now it's pretty much a triple threat match. And something about Randy Orton and triple threat matches at WrestleMania are always great. They had this one, they had the one with Logan and Owens. Anyways, this was an amazing match. The second best match of the night. That moment of Triple H bringing in the referee, Charles Robinson, I think it was his name. I think that's Little Nate, but I don't know what the name of the Scott Armstrong maybe. I forgot his name, but the referee who screwed over Daniel Bryan and Night of Champions was there. Daniel Bryan knocks him out. He jumps, hits Stephanie, Triple H, and the referee. There's back and forth with Batista and Randy Orton. There was a part, oh my goodness, this was so hard to watch. Batista hits a Batista bomb to Daniel Bryan. Randy catches him with an RKO onto the announce table. The table breaks, but the little TV monitor is still tight, and it falls on Randy Orton's back, and I was like, ooh, that hurt like a hell. There was a part where Batista and Randy Orton just fight as Daniel Bryan gets is about to be There's a part where Batista and Randy Orton are continuing the fight, but then Daniel Bryan is being carried to the back, only for him to come back in, and then they fight it off. Daniel Bryan finishes the matches. He makes Batista tap out, and Daniel Bryan gets his moment, and I was so happy that we got this. I was just satisfied beyond doubt. This was an amazing moment for Daniel Bryan, and really it was a moment for the fans because it wasn't just not fair that we had to constantly see the same guys on top and seeing no new faces, and then Daniel Bryan overcame the odds, and this basically told us that other people can succeed in the WWE, and we're getting CM Punk in the main event now, but man, at the time, the fact that he never did, it was just sad. But I was so happy with this match, and I was just so happy that we got to see this. Can't really get mad. So I will say this about this WrestleMania. I will enjoy it from top to bottom, but I can see its faults. I think the Shield could have been doing something else. I think John Cena should have lost. The Brock and Undertaker match was not good, but the moment saved it. The whole Divas being thrown together was BS for me. The Andre Battle Royal didn't hold up because of what happened. So a lot of things don't hold up because of what happens later, but I was still happy with the show that we got. So with that, I can see its problems, but I can still see myself watching this again and enjoying it. So I'm gonna give it an A minus. I think what hurts it is some matches not being as great, but the moments surpass it. So yeah, I would go back and watch this WrestleMania mainly for the Daniel Bryan stuff. Everything else was solid, but I do see the flaws in it. That tag team match on the pre-show that you got to go out of your way and watch, it should have been on the main card. One of the best moments, of course, being Hogan, Austin, and The Rock sharing a beer together. That was an incredible moment and an incredible visual. So yeah, sometimes the moments surpass the matches, but I will say that the matches here were take it or leave it, minus the Daniel Bryan stuff. Anyways, yeah, A minus. I enjoyed this. Now we get to talk about WrestleMania 31, and I have some fond memories of that. If you guys remember the Double X Prince.